Hey there, Roger Burnley here, and welcome to this video. What I've decided to do now is answer some questions that I've actually received from so many of you, but also I thought it would be a really good idea if I take you through some of the exercises that I use. I use them when I'm working with a client in the studio, in person, and also I use them in a lot of my online programs and the whole bit. But my goal is to try to get you inside my head so you start to see what I'm seeing when I'm working with the client. Through this process, you will start to relate a lot of this to what's going on with your voice. And then from that, be able to make a lot of progress. So I'm going to go through several of these videos and you'll see a lot of them around. But first of all, I want to talk about a little issue that it's actually a question that I get from so many people. They ask me, why is it that I'm so focused on the swallowing muscles? And I'm going to explain that, and it will also help you to get an understanding of why this is so important for me, especially as you progress and move through a lot more of the exercises. First of all, when you understand what happens in your body to create sound, now this is whether you are singing or speaking. Everything in your body is basically connected. First, you need to get in touch with where the swallowing muscles are. So if you have not done that before, place your thumb under your jaw. You can go into a big yawn. Oh, when you do that, you'll feel where those muscles come down, and you'll also get a sense that when that is happening, your air is stopped. Now, this is the first thing that I'm always dealing with when I'm working with a client. I'm trying to figure out if they have developed a habit of using those muscles, again, whether they're just speaking or singing. Because if you're using those muscles, this is what happens. Your larynx or your voice box, which is located here, will be slightly pushed down. That's just a way for you to think about it, okay? So if it's slightly pushed down, these muscles are coming down, your air is cut off, you're going to start to push to try to get your sound out. When you're pushing to try to get that sound out, you're actually blocking off your air, number one, and then, and again, this is just a way for you to think about it, it's as if your vocal cords are out of place, and then they start to rub together in an unnatural way. And I'm using that analogy because I want you to get this. If you think of how you will start to form a callus, let's say, whether it's on your foot or your hand or whatever, it's always because something is rubbing together and it's creating this excess skin, so to speak. And then at certain points it can become hard. And that's essentially what can happen with your vocal cords. This is when you hear about singers who have developed either polyps on their vocal cords or nodules. It's, that the nodules is the more advanced, and a lot of times when you have those nodules, I can usually get my clients to have them go away very naturally with correct technique, but sometimes people have gotten to the situation or where it's gone so far that they need to have some sort of intervention, which is a surgery to actually remove them. This is what we're always trying to avoid. The other thing that happens, and I'll tell you, you will know if you're using these muscles a lot, if you're getting hoarse all the time after singing, that raspiness, if you're not able to control a lot of your pitch, you're in certain places, you're not getting on top of your notes, you're not hitting the notes exactly. And if you have a lot of acid reflux, that will tell you that you have been using those muscles a lot. Now, you've all seen people even that are speakers, well, not necessarily singers, that over a period of time that they start to get hoarse. It is always because, to some degree, these muscles are getting in the way and causing that problem. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time here on that or try to give you an anatomy lesson on that, but you can look this up yourself and just read about it. Go to Wikipedia and read about the swallowing muscles. You'll see how it's connected to everything that you do in terms of creating sound, when you're eating food, it's all connected. So we're always trying again to get them to relax because we don't want them to interfere with your singing. Now, I've had a question, well, how is that related to air support or air support? I don't go into getting my clients to start to develop air support first until we have made sure that these muscles aren't interfering. The reason being, if you start trying to use this support, you've got a lot of air and you're trying to push out this sound, you're working against yourself, and this is what's going to cause the possible damage to your vocal cords or the hoarseness that's always going on. So that's the basic that I want you to understand on that. Okay, so now the lip trill is the first exercise that many of you have seen. I work with this all the time, and I do it in a little different way than you may have seen. Some of you have seen people do it where they're just doing this, which is great, because what you're trying to do again is you're trying to move your sound or feel or have the experience in your body where you're moving the sound through where you're not pushing to try to reach those higher notes. Now, again, you would end up pushing though if those swallowing muscles are coming down and cutting off your air. Okay, so to prevent this from happening, I've developed this little trick, and this is the first thing that I will see when I'm working with a client. If they come in and I say, okay, we're going to do the lip trill now, and they start going, they can't get it to start. This is telling me right away that they've had a habit when they're producing sound that they will immediately swallow, go back into their throat, their air is cut off. So they can't even find the place to get that lip trill to start. So now I'm going to use what I call one of my crutches, and that is using your hands. And a lot of times I do this, I use hands, I have you make really weird faces, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, but let me explain now why. Okay, so the first thing is you're gonna place your hands here and you're gonna push up. When you push up, you're gonna find where that first note is up here, above your lip, not back in your throat. It's going to be easier for you to find that when you push up this way. Okay, now I'm hearing the note start right there. Then the next thing I'm going to do, and this is especially good if you have had trouble getting the trill to start or getting it to keep going as you get into the exercise. We're going to use some reverse thinking, meaning that I want you to think you're starting here, you're going to hear the notes going up, right? But I'm going to have you think you're going down. The reason this is important, and you will find this throughout everything that I do, your brain will start to direct what's going on in your body. So now we're just having you think a little bit differently. I'm going to demonstrate it. I'm going to play a little bit of it so you can hear it and see if you can hear what I'm doing, and I'll go back and we'll break it down even a little bit more. I'm placing here. I'm thinking down this way. Okay, you can hear, every time I start, and this is really, really important when you're doing this, I want you to think that every time you're starting, think that you're starting in your forehead. We don't want this to get nasally. If you start to get too nasally, that will probably also be an indication that you're kind of falling back and trying to force the sound out, okay? So you're always thinking you're starting higher in your forehead, you're gonna hear the sound up here, then you're going down. I'm going to do it again so you can hear a little bit more of that. So you could hear a little bit more of that. Now we're getting into more of the mid upper part of my range. Okay, now what I want you to understand, this is another little trick which will help to correct the problem if you've been used to trying to force things. As I'm going up there, I'm going to now add a new thought to this. Before those higher notes, it's really important, before the higher notes, I'm actually thinking that I'm kind of letting go in my body. Let me let you hear it. As I'm letting go, I'm still thinking down, right? But then also I'm adding to that thinking that my vocal cords have just gotten thinner or shorter. I want you to understand this. If you think about if you've played a guitar before, when you pluck a string on a guitar, the thicker string on the guitar plays a lower note. The thinner string on the guitar plays a higher note, okay? So that's basically how your vocal cords work. So get this idea again. Your cords are going this way. So for me to allow those notes to happen very easily, I'm just allowing, and that's important too, that'll help your brain when you think you're just allowing rather than pushing. I'm just allowing the cords to get thinner, and I'm hearing where I'm getting those notes. I'm gonna do a little bit more so you can hear. Release before the higher note. So now again, if you're still having trouble, maybe don't start quite as low in the exercise, because if you're having this trouble of being back in your throat, you would definitely have it a little bit more in your lower range. So, but we will correct that as well. So what I want you to, again, I'm going to review this, go back. I'm thinking every time I start, I'm kind of getting a sense that the sound is up here above my lip. I'm going down. Every time I start back again, I'm thinking I'm in my forehead, so I don't have none in my nose, not getting it really nasally. So I'm going to go back and do a little bit more of it just as a review, and I'm going to let the exercise play a little bit so that you'll have it to practice with as well, okay? Let me go back, start from the beginning. I'm giving you another trick here, another one of the things that I'm always looking for when I'm hearing what my clients are doing, and you'll start to get in touch with this. When you're doing this correctly, the other thing that's going to start to happen is that you're going to hear where you're maintaining or hearing all the notes staying above your cheeks. That is going to be really crucial as we get into other parts of this, okay? But now listen again, you'll probably hear where I'm doing that. It's up here always. I'm going down and releasing. Play. You should only go as high as you can without forcing, okay? Really tiny here. So that'll give you enough to work with. If you're a female voice, you can actually start where I started, do it the octave higher. You'll get the same result. But practice this, work with it, and again, every time you do it and you start to get that coordination that I showed you to work, you're going to start to feel a lot more freedom in your voice. Okay, I'll see you soon.